The Thompson family, father Mark, mother Lisa, teenage daughter Emily, and young son Jake, wake up to a horrifying reality. The peaceful suburban neighborhood they have lived in for years is in chaos. Screams echo in the distance, gunshots ring out, and the television broadcasts emergency warnings: stay indoors. Avoid all infected individuals. Help is unavailable. At first, Mark assumes it's just another crisis that will soon be under control, but Lisa's trembling hands as she closes the curtains say otherwise. Emily, ever curious, sneaks a peek through the window, and what she sees sends shivers down her spine. Their neighbor, Mr. Roberts, is stumbling across the lawn, his face covered in blood, his eyes vacant and inhuman. Before they can react, the horror escalates. Mr. Roberts lunges at another neighbor, Mrs. Carter, tearing into her throat as she shrieks in agony. The sound draws more of the undead, figures moving stiffly yet unnervingly fast. Within minutes, their quiet street is overrun with the infected. Mark slams the doors shut, locking every entrance. He checks the back door, the windows, anything that might serve as a weak point. Lisa rushes to gather essentials: water, canned food, and a flashlight. Then comes the first real test. A loud bang shakes the front door. Someone, is outside. Jake starts crying, but Emily clamps a hand over his mouth, her own breath shaking. The family moves silently to the second floor, hearts pounding. A horrifying sound follows, a groan, low and guttural. The knob rattles violently. A raspy voice hisses from outside, "Help, please." Mark hesitates. Is it a survivor? Or worse, someone already infected? Lisa grips his arm, whispering, "We can't risk it." But outside, the plea turns into a choked scream. Through the window, they see a man being dragged down by two zombies, his cries fading into gurgles. The family watches in horror as the creatures feast. Then, another problem arises. A loud crash echoes from downstairs. The kitchen window, one of them got in. A sharp crash echoes through the house. The Thompson family freezes. The sound came from the kitchen. Something, or someone, has broken in. Mark gestures for everyone to stay quiet. He grabs a baseball bat from the closet, his knuckles turning white around the handle. Lisa pulls Jake close, pressing a hand over his mouth to keep him from making a sound. Emily grips a kitchen knife she had taken earlier, her breathing shallow. Another sound. A chair scraping against the floor. Something is moving inside. Mark inches toward the staircase, peering down. Moonlight streams through the shattered window, glass scattered across the tile. A dark shape stirs near the counter. A figure stands up, clumsy, jerky movements, an awful wet sound coming from its mouth. It's inside. The zombie, once their friendly next-door neighbor, Mrs. Carter, turns its head at an unnatural angle. Its lower jaw hangs loosely, like it's been torn apart. A grotesque gurgle escapes its throat as it sniffs the air. It knows they're here. Mark barely has time to react before the creature lunges. He stumbles backward, barely dodging the attack. The zombie slams against the dining table, knocking over a chair. The noise is deafening. More will hear that. Lisa grabs Jake and pulls Emily toward the upstairs hallway. "Mark. Come on," she whispers urgently. Mark swings the bat, connecting with the side of the zombie's head. It staggers but doesn't fall. How is it still standing? The monster lunges again. Mark barely sidesteps it before slamming the bat down on its skull, once, twice, until a sickening crunch fills the air. The zombie collapses. Panting, Mark backs away, his hands shaking. But before relief can set in, a chilling realization dawns on him. The noise. Outside, the groans grow louder. Shadows shift through the broken window. More of them are coming. Emily gasps. "Dad, we have to get upstairs. Now." Mark doesn't need to be told twice. He rushes up the stairs, slamming the bedroom door shut behind him. Lisa barricades it with a dresser while Jake clings to her side, whimpering. Then, From the window, movement. Dozens of zombies swarm their front yard. More than before. Some bang against the walls. Others climb onto the porch. Emily grips Mark's arm, terror in her eyes. They know we're inside. Lisa swallows hard. We're trapped. A loud bang shakes the front door. The groaning intensifies. The zombies are no longer wandering, they're attacking. A single thought races through Mark's mind. The house won't hold forever. Part 3. The house is no longer safe. The pounding on the front door grows more violent. The walls tremble as the undead horde outside crashes against them. Time is running out. Mark grips the baseball bat tightly, his mind racing. They need a plan, and they need it fast. Staying inside isn't an option anymore. Lisa pulls Jake closer. What do we do? Emily, peering through the upstairs window, gasps. They're coming from the backyard too. Mark hurries to the window. His stomach drops. More zombies, dozens, pushing against the fence. Some are already climbing over, their rotten fingers clawing for a way in. Lisa's voice trembles. We're surrounded. The barricade on the bedroom door shifts slightly. Something is pushing against it. More are inside. Emily shakes her head, panic creeping into her voice. We can't stay here. We have to get out. But how? The streets are flooded with the undead. The front yard is a death trap. The back door is compromised. Then, Mark sees it, the attic hatch. He turns to Lisa. We go up. Lisa hesitates. And then what? We can't stay up there forever. Mark looks at the roof through the attic window. We get to the roof. We'll figure out our next move from there. It's a terrible plan, but it's their only option. A thunderous crash echoes from below. The front door has given in. The undead are inside. Lisa hoists Jake into her arms as Emily scrambles onto a chair, pushing open the attic hatch. Mark helps Lisa up first, then Emily. Jake follows, whimpering. Mark is the last one, pulling himself up just as the bedroom door bursts open. A rotting hand claws at his leg. Mark kicks desperately, his heart pounding. He swings the bat downward, smashing the creature's skull. It stumbles, giving him just enough time to pull himself up and slam the hatch shut. For a moment, there's silence. Then, the attic door shakes. Below them, zombies snarl and claw at the ceiling. Jake clings to Lisa, his small body trembling. Emily wipes tears from her cheeks, trying to steady her breathing. Mark looks toward the attic window. They have to keep moving. Through the glass, he sees the rooftops of their neighbors' houses stretching out under the moonlight. If they can just get across. But then, something else catches his eye. Across the street, on another rooftop, a figure. A man, standing alone, looking straight at them. Emily notices too. Dad, someone's out there. Mark narrows his eyes. The man doesn't move. He just watches. Then, slowly, he raises a finger to his lips. A warning. Mark's breath catches. They're not alone. The pounding on the front door grows more violent. The walls tremble as the undead horde outside crashes against them. Time is running out. Mark grips the baseball bat tightly, his mind racing. They need a plan, and they need it fast. Staying inside isn't an option anymore. Lisa pulls Jake closer. What do we do? Emily, peering through the upstairs window, gasps. They're coming from the backyard too. Mark hurries to the window. His stomach drops. More zombies, dozens, pushing against the fence. Some are already climbing over, their rotten fingers clawing for a way in. Lisa's voice trembles. We're surrounded. The barricade on the bedroom door shifts slightly. Something is pushing against it. More are inside. Emily shakes her head, panic creeping into her voice. We can't stay here. We have to get out. But how? The streets are flooded with the undead. The front yard is a death trap. The back door is compromised. Then, Mark sees it, the attic hatch. He turns to Lisa. We go up. Lisa hesitates. And then what? We can't stay up there forever. Mark looks at the roof through the attic window. We get to the roof. We'll figure out our next move from there. It's a terrible plan, but it's their only option. A thunderous crash echoes from below. The front door has given in. The undead are inside. Lisa hoists Jake into her arms as Emily scrambles onto a chair, pushing open the attic hatch. Mark helps Lisa up first, then Emily. Jake follows, whimpering. Mark is the last one, pulling himself up just as the bedroom door bursts open. A rotting hand claws at his leg. Mark kicks desperately, his heart pounding. He swings the bat downward, smashing the creature's skull. It stumbles, giving him just enough time to pull himself up and slam the hatch shut. For a moment, there's silence. Then, the attic door shakes. Below them, zombies snarl and claw at the ceiling. Jake clings to Lisa, his small body trembling. Emily wipes tears from her cheeks, trying to steady her breathing. Mark looks toward the attic window. They have to keep moving. Through the glass, he sees the rooftops of their neighbors' houses stretching out under the moonlight. If they can just get across. But then, something else catches his eye. Across the street, on another rooftop, a figure. A man, standing alone, looking straight at them. Emily notices too. Dad, someone's out there. Mark narrows his eyes. The man doesn't move. He just watches. Then, slowly, he raises a finger to his lips. A warning. Mark's breath catches. They're not alone. The attic was dark, the only light filtering through the small window at the far end. Mark's breath was still uneven from their desperate escape, but his focus was now locked on the figure across the street. A man. Alive. Watching them. Emily crouched beside him, her eyes wide. Dad, who is that? Mark shook his head. He didn't know. The man stood on a neighboring rooftop, his body partially hidden by the shadows. He was dressed in dark clothes, a backpack strapped to his shoulders. Then, the man did something unexpected. He pointed to the left, toward the row of rooftops stretching down the street. Then, slowly, he raised a finger to his lips. A warning. Mark swallowed hard. Did this stranger want them to follow? Or was he telling them to stay quiet? Lisa crept closer, keeping Jake tucked against her. Mark, what do we do? Before he could answer, a thunderous crash from below made them all jump. The zombies were getting through the attic door. A guttural snarl erupted from beneath them, followed by the splintering of wood. Jake whimpered, burying his face into Lisa's chest. The attic hatch trembled, another powerful shove and it would break open. They had no time. Mark made a split-second decision. He grabbed an old chair, smashed the attic window with the bat, and cleared the jagged edges. The wind rushed in, carrying the distant echoes of the apocalypse outside. Lisa gasped. We're going onto the roof? Mark didn't have a choice. He climbed through first, gripping the roof's rough surface as he pulled himself up. The asphalt shingles were uneven beneath his hands. He turned back, reaching for Lisa. Pass me Jake. Lisa hesitated for only a moment before handing their son over. Mark pulled the boy onto the roof, keeping a firm grip so he wouldn't slip. Then, Emily climbed out, her breath coming in quick gasps. Finally, Lisa joined them, just as. Crack. The attic hatch shattered. A grotesque hand clawed at the opening, followed by a grotesque, decomposed face pushing through. Lisa screamed. Mark didn't waste a second. Move! The family scrambled up the sloped rooftop, their bodies dangerously close to sliding down the other side. Below, the zombies began pouring into the attic. Their snarls filled the night air, their decaying fingers stretching toward the broken window. Lisa grabbed Jake's hand tightly. Emily, shaking, tried to steady herself. Then, a whistle cut through the chaos. Mark's head snapped toward the source, the stranger. The man had moved. He was now crouching on a rooftop a few houses down, waving them toward him. Emily's voice was barely a whisper. "He wants us to follow him." Mark's mind raced. Could they trust him? What if he was leading them into a trap? But what choice did they have? The house was lost. The streets below were filled with the undead. A deep, guttural growl from behind made the decision for him. They had to move. "Come on," Mark whispered harshly. The family carefully crawled along the roof, inching toward the stranger's location. Every step felt like a gamble, one wrong move, one slip, and they'd fall right into the waiting mouths below. The groans of the zombies followed them, their putrid hands reaching through the attic window. Emily stifled a sob as they reached the next rooftop. The gap between the two houses was small, but deadly. Mark eyed the distance. It wasn't far, but a bad landing meant death. The stranger gestured. "Jump." Lisa paled. "Oh, God." Mark turned to Emily. "You go first." Her eyes widened. "Me?" He cupped her face. "I know you can do this. Just jump. I'll catch you if I have to." Emily's breath hitched, but she nodded. She took a step back, braced herself, and jumped. For a terrifying second, Mark thought she wouldn't make it. Then, her hands slapped against the rooftop edge. The stranger grabbed her wrists and pulled her up effortlessly. Emily gasped, heart racing, but she was alive. Lisa and Jake were next. Mark took Jake in his arms, held him close, and jumped. The stranger caught them. Lisa hesitated, fear in her eyes. The zombies were almost through the attic. Then she ran, and jumped. For a second, Mark thought she'd fall short. But he caught her. She collapsed onto the rooftop, panting. The family was safe, for now. The stranger crouched beside them. He was young, maybe late 20s, with short black hair and a determined expression. A rifle was slung across his back. Mark met his gaze. "Who are you?" The man exhaled. "Someone who just saved your life." He gestured to the rooftops ahead. "And if you want to keep it, you better come with me." Lisa hesitated. "Why should we trust you?" The stranger's gaze darkened. "Because if you don't, you're already dead." Mark looked back at their home, now completely overrun. They had no choice. With one last glance at the nightmare behind them, the family followed the stranger into the unknown. Mark, Lisa, Emily, and Jake followed the stranger across the rooftops, their movements careful but urgent. Below them, the streets were swarming with the undead. The growls and snarls of the zombies echoed through the night, sending chills down their spines. Lisa kept a tight hold on Jake, her eyes darting between Mark and the stranger leading them forward. Who was this man? And why was he helping them? After crossing 3 rooftops, the stranger stopped near a partially collapsed house. He crouched beside a skylight and waved them over. Mark hesitated. "Where are we going?" The stranger shot him a sharp glance. "Somewhere safe. But we have to be quick." Lisa's voice was cautious. "Why should we trust you?" The man exhaled, frustration flickering across his face. "You don't have a choice. Your house is gone. The streets are suicide. And I just saved your lives. You either follow me, or you take your chances out here." Mark exchanged a look with Lisa. They didn't have time to argue. With a nod, Mark helped Emily and Lisa climb down through the skylight, then passed Jake down carefully. Finally, he followed, gripping the edges as he lowered himself into the darkness. They landed in a dusty attic filled with old furniture and storage boxes. The air smelled of mildew, but at least it wasn't filled with rotting flesh. The stranger moved ahead, leading them through a hidden trapdoor in the floor. One by one, they descended into a dimly lit hallway. Mark tensed. Was this a trap? Then, a soft, flickering light came into view. As they stepped into the next room, they saw it, a small, makeshift hideout. Blankets and sleeping bags were laid out in the corners. Shelves stocked with canned food and bottled water lined the walls. A small, battery-powered lantern cast long shadows around the room. But what caught their attention the most was the girl sitting on a couch, gripping a knife. She looked around Emily's age, maybe 16, with short brown hair and fierce eyes. She tensed at the sight of them, her fingers tightening around the blade. The stranger raised a hand. "It's okay, Cassie. They're with me." Cassie didn't lower the knife. "Who are they?" Mark stepped forward, keeping his hands visible. "Just a family trying to survive." The stranger sighed, rubbing the back of his neck. "I didn't catch your names." Mark hesitated, still wary. But after everything, what choice did they have? "Mark. This is my wife, Lisa. Our daughter, Emily. And Jake." Lisa shifted, still holding Jake close. "And you?" The man nodded. "Darren." He gestured toward the girl. "And that's Cassie." Cassie finally lowered the knife, but her expression remained guarded. "You shouldn't have brought them here." Lisa frowned. "Why not?" Cassie's voice was cold. "Because people can't be trusted." A heavy silence followed. Emily took a cautious step forward. "We're not a threat." Cassie scoffed. "That's what everyone says. Until they stab you in the back." Mark exchanged a glance with Lisa. Something had happened to this girl. Something bad. Darren exhaled, looking exhausted. "Look, we don't have time for this. You're here now, and the house is safe, for the moment." He grabbed a bottle of water and tossed it to Mark. "Drink. Rest. You'll need your strength." Mark caught the bottle but didn't open it. "For what?" Darren's expression darkened. "Getting out of this city." Lisa blinked. "You have a plan?" Darren nodded. "We can't stay here forever. The zombies are getting worse. Supplies won't last. If we don't leave soon, we'll die here." Mark narrowed his eyes. "And where exactly do you plan on going?" Darren leaned against the wall, folding his arms. "There's a military outpost about 20 miles from here. I picked up a radio transmission a few days ago. Survivors are gathering there. If we can make it, we might have a chance." Lisa bit her lip. 20 miles? Through a city full of the dead? Darren's jaw tightened. "It's risky. But staying here is worse." Emily glanced at Cassie, who was still watching them warily. "What about you?" Cassie's eyes flickered toward Darren before looking away. "I go where he goes." Mark sat down, running a hand over his face. "This is insane." Lisa hesitated, looking at Jake, then at Mark. "But what if he's right?" Mark sighed. He didn't like it, but deep down, he knew Darren was right. They couldn't stay here forever. Jake yawned, curling up in Lisa's lap, exhaustion finally overtaking his small body. Lisa stroked his hair, her expression filled with quiet determination. Darren leaned in. "We leave at sunrise." Mark met his gaze. "Then I guess we better get ready." The hideout was eerily quiet as dawn approached. The distant moans of the undead outside served as a grim reminder that their window of escape was small. Mark sat against the wall, gripping the baseball bat he had brought from home. His mind raced. Leaving was risky, but staying meant certain death. Darren knelt by his backpack, checking supplies. "We move at first light. Once we hit the streets, we stick together. No noise. No unnecessary risks." Lisa adjusted Jake's jacket, making sure he was warm. She looked at Darren. "How are we getting out?" Darren pointed to a hand-drawn map on the floor. "There's a drainage tunnel a few blocks away. It runs under the city. If we can reach it, we can avoid most of the zombies." Emily frowned. "And if the tunnel's blocked?" Darren's face hardened. "Then we improvise." Cassie, sitting in the corner sharpening her knife, scoffed. "It's a bad idea." Lisa raised an eyebrow. "You have a better one?" Cassie didn't answer. Mark sighed, standing up. "All right. Let's do this." Darren nodded. "We take only what we need. Travel light. Stay fast." Within minutes, the group was ready. Darren led them through the house's back door, stepping cautiously into the cold morning air. The city was a graveyard. Burnt-out cars, shattered windows, and bloodstains covered the streets. The distant figures of the undead shuffled aimlessly, their decayed bodies twitching at the faintest sound. Darren motioned for everyone to follow. They moved quickly, staying close to the shadows, avoiding open spaces. Mark held Jake's hand tightly. Every step felt like walking through a minefield. They made it past 2 blocks before trouble found them. A single zombie. It staggered out from behind an overturned dumpster, its milky white eyes locking onto them. Lisa gasped. Jake whimpered. The zombie let out a low, guttural growl, then lunged. Darren moved fast. He pulled a silenced pistol from his belt and fired. Pfft. The bullet tore through the zombie's skull. It collapsed instantly. Lisa exhaled sharply. Jesus. Darren shot her a warning look. Quiet. Too late. A deep, horrifying howl echoed from down the street. Then, movement. Shadows shifted in the distance. More figures emerged from alleyways, their bodies twitching as they caught the scent of the living. Mark's stomach dropped. They weren't alone anymore. Cassie cursed. They heard us. Darren didn't hesitate. Run. The group sprinted, feet pounding against the pavement. Zombies poured into the street, their snarls turning into a deafening chorus of hunger. Jake started crying. Lisa hoisted him into her arms, pushing forward as fast as she could. Darren led them through an abandoned parking lot. The tunnel entrance was close, but the undead were gaining fast. A chain-link fence blocked the path. Darren didn't slow down. He jumped, grabbed the fence, and climbed over. Mark helped Lisa and Emily up. Cassie followed quickly, moving like she had done this before. Mark swung Jake over the top and dropped down. Lisa landed beside him. They were almost there. Darren sprinted ahead, reaching a rusted metal grate near an overgrown storm drain. He grabbed the bars and yanked hard. Nothing. Emily's breath hitched. It stuck. Darren gritted his teeth, pulling harder. The zombies were coming. Cassie swore under her breath, turning. I'll hold them off. She pulled her knife, slashing at the nearest zombie. Mark grabbed a broken pipe and joined her, swinging at an approaching ghoul. Lisa clutched Jake, her voice panicked. Darren, hurry! Darren gave one final pull, and the grate snapped free. Go! Now! He shoved Lisa and Jake inside. Emily followed, ***. Mark threw one last punch at a zombie before diving in after them. Cassie hesitated for half a second, then she jumped, landing hard as Darren slammed the grate shut behind them. Darkness swallowed them. Above them, the moans of the undead filled the air. Emily panted, clutching her chest. Lisa squeezed Jake tightly. Mark wiped sweat from his brow. They made it. Darren flicked on a flashlight, his expression grim. We're not safe yet. He pointed down the tunnel, ***. It stretched into pitch-black nothingness. Mark's stomach twisted. This was only the beginning. The air in the tunnel was thick with the smell of damp rot and rusted metal. Water dripped from above, echoing in the darkness. The only light came from Darren's flashlight, its weak beam cutting through the oppressive gloom. Mark adjusted his grip on the baseball bat, his pulse still hammering from their escape. Behind him, Lisa held Jake close, whispering soft reassurances into his ear. Emily walked beside them, her face pale but determined. Cassie, gripping her knife tightly, scanned the darkness ahead. I hate this already. Darren took the lead, stepping cautiously. We move fast. If something's down here, we don't stop to find out what. Mark swallowed hard. You think there's something in here? Darren didn't answer. They moved in silence, the only sound their footsteps splashing in shallow puddles. The tunnel stretched ahead, a maze of concrete and shadow. Pipes ran along the ceiling, some rusted and leaking. The deeper they went, the colder it became. Lisa shivered. How long does this tunnel go? Darren flicked his light toward the walls, checking faded markings. A few miles. It should lead us near the outskirts of the city. Emily exhaled. If we make it that far. Mark shot her a look. Stay positive. Cassie scoffed. Optimism won't keep us alive. Then, a noise. A distant scraping sound echoed through the tunnel. Everyone froze. Lisa pulled Jake closer. Emily clutched Mark's arm. Darren shut off the flashlight. Darkness swallowed them. For a long moment, they waited. Silence. Then, a slow, wet shuffle. Mark's heart pounded. The sound came from up ahead. Cassie tensed. Oh, hell no. Darren whispered. Stay quiet. The group crept forward, barely breathing. The tunnel curved slightly, and as they turned the corner, Darren flicked his light back on. The beam illuminated a figure. A zombie. It was crawling. Its lower body was missing. Rotting entrails dragged behind it as its clawed hands pulled its decayed body forward. Its head jerked up, milky eyes locking onto them. A horrible, guttural hiss escaped its lips. Then, more sounds. More shuffling. More scraping. Darren's light swept the tunnel. There were dozens of them. Crawling. Moving slowly through the sludge and filth. Dozens of half-torn, dismembered zombies, all dragging themselves forward. Lisa gasped. Dear God. Jake whimpered, burying his face in her shoulder. Mark's grip on the bat tightened. We need another way. Darren's jaw clenched. No time. We run. Emily's eyes widened. Through them? Cassie growled. Got a better idea? The zombies were getting faster, pulling themselves forward with sickening hunger. Darren didn't wait. He ran. Mark grabbed Lisa's hand. Go! Now! They sprinted. Lisa carried Jake as best she could. Emily ran beside them, breathing hard. The tunnel became a nightmare. Zombies clawed at their ankles, bony fingers grasping for flesh. Mark swung his bat, crushing a skull as they vaulted over the crawling corpses. Cassie kicked a zombie in the face, sending its rotting jaw snapping sideways. Keep moving. Darren leaped over a pile of half-eaten bodies, landing hard. The tunnel sloped downward, an exit was ahead. Lisa gasped, nearly slipping. Mark caught her just in time. Zombies snarled. Fingers scraped against their legs. Emily shrieked as one latched onto her ankle. No! Mark swung hard, crack. The zombie's skull shattered. Darren reached a rusted ladder at the end of the tunnel. Up! Now! Lisa shoved Jake into Darren's arms. He climbed fast, small hands gripping the rungs. Lisa followed, breathless. Emily went next, barely dodging a grasping hand. Mark turned to help Cassie, but a zombie lunged. Cassie stabbed it through the eye. But another grabbed her from behind. Mark! Mark swung wildly, knocking the creature back. Cassie yanked free, stumbling toward the ladder. More zombies piled in. Cassie climbed. Mark followed, just as the dead reached the base of the ladder. They snapped at his heels. Darren yanked Mark up, pulling him through the opening. Then, bang. Cassie slammed the hatch shut. Silence. Mark collapsed, gasping for air. Lisa clutched Jake, sobbing. Emily sat against the wall, trembling. Darren turned off the flashlight. Cassie muttered, I'm never going in a tunnel again. Mark exhaled, looking at Darren. Where are we? Darren's expression was grim. Almost out of the city. He pointed ahead. They were in an old subway station. It was abandoned. Dusty. But eerily silent. Lisa stood, holding Jake. Is it safe? Darren didn't answer. Instead, he listened. Then, a sound. Not zombies. Something else. Footsteps. A voice echoed through the tunnels. Well, what do we have here? The group stiffened. Mark reached for his bat. Darren's hand went to his gun. Then, from the shadows, a group of armed survivors stepped forward. Guns. Knives. Smirks on their faces. Lisa whispered, "Oh no." Mark's blood ran cold. They had survived the zombies. But now, they faced something even worse. Mark tightened his grip on the baseball bat, his heart hammering. The armed survivors stepped out of the shadows, their faces illuminated by flickering emergency lights. There were 6 of them, all rough-looking, dressed in mismatched gear, weapons slung across their bodies. Their leader, a man with a shaved head and a jagged scar across his cheek, smirked as he looked the group over. Well, looks like we've got some strays. Lisa clutched Jake tightly. Emily edged closer to Mark. Darren stepped forward, keeping his hands visible. We don't want trouble. We're just passing through. The scarred man chuckled. You're in our territory now. That means you owe us. Cassie scowled. We don't owe you anything. One of the men, a tall brute with a crowbar, stepped closer. Mouthy little brat, huh? Cassie's hand twitched toward her knife, but Darren shot her a warning look. Not yet. Mark exhaled slowly. Look, we just escaped a tunnel full of zombies. We don't want to fight. The scarred man tilted his head. You think this is a negotiation? He gestured toward his men. See, supplies are running low. And you lot? You have supplies. Food. Weapons. Lisa's eyes widened. You're robbing us? The man grinned. Call it a toll. Darren's jaw tightened. They were outnumbered. Outgunned. And the other group knew it. The brute with the crowbar stepped forward and grabbed Emily's backpack. Emily gasped. Hey! Mark moved instinctively, swinging his bat. Crack. The bat slammed into the brute's side, knocking him back. Then, chaos. One of the gunmen fired a warning shot into the air. The sound roared through the tunnel, echoing in every direction. A terrible, familiar sound followed. The moans of the undead. Lisa's breath hitched. You idiots! The zombies. The scarred man's face darkened. You made a mistake. Darren moved first, grabbing Lisa's arm and running. Go! Now! The group sprinted, adrenaline surging. The other survivors hesitated, torn between chasing them or dealing with the approaching zombies. The moans grew louder. Then, the dead arrived. Dozens. A tide of rotting bodies poured into the station. Mark barely had time to look back before he saw one of the gunmen get dragged down, screaming. Gunfire erupted. The scavengers fought, but the dead overwhelmed them. Cassie shoved open a rusted maintenance door. In here! The group rushed inside, slamming the door shut. Panting. Trembling. Outside, the screams of the scavengers filled the air. Then, silence. Only the wet sounds of feeding remained. Lisa swallowed hard, holding Jake close. Are they all dead? Darren leaned against the door, listening. If they're lucky. Mark exhaled shakily. Let's keep moving. The maintenance passage led them through the ruins of the subway system. The tunnels were dark, the air thick with dust and decay. But after what felt like an eternity, they saw it. An exit. The metal door was slightly ajar, sunlight streaming in through the cracks. Cassie grinned. Finally, Darren pushed the door open. And for the first time in what felt like forever, they stepped outside. The world beyond. The city skyline loomed in the distance, a shattered graveyard of buildings and smoke. But the streets ahead were clear. No zombies. No scavengers. For now, at least. Lisa lifted Jake into her arms, her eyes filled with tears. We made it. Emily inhaled deeply, feeling the fresh air against her skin. Mark looked at Darren. What now? Darren surveyed the open landscape. We keep moving. Cassie rolled her eyes. Figures. Mark sighed, nodding. They weren't safe yet. But they had survived. And in this world, that was all that mattered. The end, for now.